Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you 2 Halloween DIYs made by Dollar Tree items, so let's get right into it. You're going to start off by getting some of these 5-gallon stir sticks from Walmart. You can get them in a 3-pack for a little over $1. Then you want some foam core board, some stencils or some iron-ons or stickers, and some cardstock. And I'm using one of these fall signs from the Dollar Tree, and you're just going to need the pumpkin from that. And then a metal leaf, I tore off a decor piece, a Jenga block that we're going to cut into 4 pieces, and then we're also using some white, black, and gray paint. I want to take this moment to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you'll be notified of all of my uploads, and stick around a while. Love to have you. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just measuring to cut off the ends of the stir sticks. I don't want that rounded piece. So I'm just putting it in my miter box and we're just going to cut those. But save the rounded pieces. We're going to need those later on. Now I'm just going to take the stencil and I'm going to trace onto my foam core board the letter B and the letter O. Once you have those traced out, you're just going to take your X-Acto knife or your utility knife and you're just going to cut those letters out. And be very careful. This foam core board is easy to use, but just be very careful because this kind of stencil that I used, I had to kind of go around the letters a little bit without tearing them. And there's what you should have once you have it cut out. And now I'm just going to sand down the edges because sometimes when you cut the foam core board with a utility knife, it leaves these rough edges. So I'm just sanding those down. Now I'm going to take off one of these pumpkins off the football pumpkin sign. And we're just going to give everything, even the pumpkin, a coat of the elephant gray. And I'm using folk art. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm using Waverly in gray, an elephant gray. I'll get it out there. You're going to start off by painting the letters B, O, and the pumpkin in the Waverly elephant gray. And on the pumpkin, I only gave it 1 coat of the elephant gray. It didn't take much at all to cover it up. Really, everything's just going to need 1 coat because we're also going to make this look like it's galvanized. So we're just going to use our galvanized technique. So now I'm going to go in with the Adirondack white, and I'm just going to spread that on both letters and the pumpkin. And you're just going to stipple it on there. Now once we have all the white on there, I'm going to go back in with some of the gray, and places where I got a little heavy-handed with the white, I'm just going to cover up with more of the elephant gray. And we're still working on that galvanized look. Now I'm going to go in with my Waverly chalk paint and ink, and I'm just going to dab on some of the ink color on both letters and the pumpkin. And this is just going to add a little more of a weathered galvanized look. I want it to look kind of spooky and a little bit darker than their normal galvanized. So that's why I'm going a little heavy with the black. It actually turns out really great. You can skip this step if you want to. You don't have to have the black, but like I said, I wanted it to look a little more like weathered and just old and spooky. And you just want to keep like I'm going back in with the white because I got a little heavy-handed with the black. So you're just going to keep doing this until you achieve the look that you're wanting. Now on the pumpkin, I'm going to draw a jack-o'-lantern. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a heads up on this. This was very hard to cut through and to make the pattern that I wanted. This actually might be easier if you just trace a pumpkin onto a piece of foam core board just like the letters. It's going to be easier to cut out and it's going to be easier to do. I kind of wish I had done that, but I'm already this far into it, so I'm just going to finish it. This board really isn't hard to cut through, it's just very tedious and it takes a while. So you may just want to use a piece of foam core board to go with the letters. But I thought by using the wood I'd get more like a 3D look, and I wanted different textures and patterns on this sign. But after it was all said and done, my hands wish I had done it with the foam core board. So now I'm just going to go in with my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut out my jack-o'-lantern pattern. And like I said, this wore my hands out. And once you've cut enough through there, you should just be able to pop out each piece. And then I'm just going to go through with the X-Acto knife and just trim off any excess, like that MDF or whatever it's called. And there's what we have when we're finished. And now since I cut it out after I painted it, I'm just going to go in and cover up some of those cut edges with the paint. Okay, and then once we have all of that done, I'm going to trace out the pumpkin on the sheet of this cardstock or scrapbook paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. And I kind of wish I had used a brighter color, but this still turned out really cute. It kind of looked like a candy corn. And we're just going to glue the pumpkin onto this so that you can see it through its eyes, nose, and mouth. So with some hot glue, I'm just going to give it a good dab of hot glue there. I'm just gluing. And then I'm just going to attach it to the scrapbook paper. And I'm going to kind of line it up to where you can see the lines of the scrapbook paper to kind of look like candy corn. And you can use any color scrapbook paper you want. I also thought a real bright, like yellow scrapbook paper would look cute. It'd make it look like it was lit up. I used the Jenga block piece to separate my pieces of wood to the width that I wanted it, and then I just measured it, and now I'm cutting this off, and this is just going to make the wood piece stable. This is going to be the wood slat that holds these three pieces of wood together, and you're actually going to need to cut 3 of these the same size because you want 1 on each end and 1 in the middle. And there you can see my tumbling tower blocks where I have it separating the wood pieces on both ends so that I can make sure they're evenly separated. And then I'm just going to hot glue those pieces down to help stabilize the plaque here, to hold it together. And this stake that I'm using, it just came off one of my signs from the Dollar Tree. I already did DIY with them before. I love using these. They're easy to cut up just by using your miter box. And you can use these to make, the palette sign that I'm making here. They're good to, cut up and use for all kinds of things, so I save everything from the Dollar Tree. And now I'm just cutting my third piece to go in the middle here. And again, just to make sure you have the same distance between each piece of wood, I just used the tower tumbling blocks lengthwise, and I put 2 on each end, and it gives you about an inch width, and there's what you should have by the time you glue everything together. And now I'm just going to sand down the edges to kind of make those a little more smooth. And I'm just going to paint this whole thing black, but I'm just going to give it a light coat. I'm not going to go in heavy-handed. You want to make sure you get all the sides and the edges and on the insides. And I want this to look kind of worn, so I want a little bit of that wood peeking through. Of course, Waverly chalk paint ink is probably some of the best paint you can get as far as coverage, so it's kind of hard to even get a light coverage when you really want one. I'm not complaining, because that's the best black paint I've ever found. And since it didn't really do what I wanted it to do, I'm going to go over with a piece of sandpaper and just kind of get some of that shine off of there. And then what the video did not pick up is I actually took a Jenga block and I cut it into 4 pieces. As you can see right there in the picture, actually I cut it into 6 pieces. I'm sorry, so I used 2 Jenga blocks and I cut it into 6 little pieces. Or you can use those wooden cubes that they sell at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to put 2 of these on each letter and 2 of these on the pumpkin so that it can actually stand up from the palette. And it's going to give it a little more dimension. So like I said, you can use 2 Jenga blocks and cut it into pieces of 4. Or you can just get you some of those little wood cubes that the Dollar Tree sells in the packs, which would probably be much easier, but this is what I had on hand, so I had to cut these. And these are so easy to cut through. I just used my miter box. And you can see I'm just hot gluing those onto the back of each piece. And then once I have those glued on, I'm just going to center them onto my palette sign, and we're going to glue those down. And we're just going to put that green metal leaf in there that I tore off of another, or well, I didn't actually tear it off, I already had it from another DIY. So I just threw that on there to add a little bit more color so that it's not all black and gray. And then those end pieces that we cut off from the stir sticks, we're going to glue those onto the back, and those are going to be our hangers. And I wanted those to be left as just the original wood, again, to add a little bit of depth to this project. You know, just a little bit of dimension, texture, all the fancy words that us YouTube crafters like to use. Now I'm just going to take this jute twine and I'm going to tie it around each one of these, and then I'm going to put a dab of hot glue on there just so that I know it has some more support, and we're just going to hang it using this jute twine. And I got my inspiration for this piece from a website called Burton & Burton. I'll put a picture of it as soon as we're done here so that you can compare the inspiration piece to the piece that I made. I thought it turned out really great, and I loved how it turned out. And I didn't have to pay all the extra money, and I got a piece that I'm going to enjoy year after year for Halloween. This piece cost a total of $3 for me to make, by the way. And there you have it, and here's my inspiration piece. Let me know what you think in the comments below, if I came close, if I did good, and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this project. Now for our next project, you're going to need some of these wooden planks. You're going to need a dowel rod, and I'm using a cat and a ghost from the Color Your Own Ornament packs at the Dollar Tree sells, a pumpkin clip from the Dollar Tree, and I'm also using, forget the brush pen, I never did use it, and then I'm using white and black paint. So now I'm just going to paint my ghost, you guessed it, in the color white, and we're going to paint the front and back. And once we have our ghost painted, I'm going to paint the cat. What color? Black. What color would the cat be? It's Halloween. It has to be a black cat. So I'm going to give it just a coat. I didn't give any of these 2 coats. So I just gave it a coat of the black ink on both sides. Preference, and I'm just making 2 yellow eyes. And ignore the pumpkin there in the corner. I tried to make a jack-o'-lantern and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it, so I never used it. I just ended up using a plain pumpkin. So yeah, sometimes things don't work out the way you want. Now I'm taking the black paint and I'm also just outlining the ghost's eyes and its mouth, and then I'm just going to dry coat, just dry paint the black onto the ghost. Make it look a little more spooky, like dirty, and like ghosts should look, I guess. And I'm going to take that wood piece plank that we got out of that pack from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue the dowel rod onto that plank. And I ended up cutting that dowel rod in half. I did lose a lot of footage to this, which I don't know why, but I ended up cutting that dowel rod in half, and I'm going to glue the cat to the dowel rod, making sure that the dowel rod is hidden behind the cat's legs. And you can see you can't see the dowel rod underneath the cat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up the rest of the dowel rod and attach the ghost to the dowel rod and the cat. And this is just going to be a little tabletop Halloween vignette. I just thought it turned out so cute. It looked like the cat was, or the ghost was floating away from the cat. And then I'm taking my pumpkin pick and I'm going to glue it down to that piece of board. Now, like I said, I first tried to paint a jack-o'-lantern face on this, but it did not come out. I am not a very good artist. So I'm just using a plain pumpkin. And now I'm just taking some of this Excelsior and we're going to hot glue it down onto the wood plaque all around the cat and the ghost and the pumpkin. And you're just going to pour on the hot glue and start attaching this stuff. Be careful, this stuff is very messy and it gets very hot, so I had to use a dowel rod to just kind of push it down into the glue. If you have any raffia, that would work. This is just stuff I had on hand. You can see on the back of the cat here, I did try to draw like a mouth on it, and it did not work out either. Oh my gosh, guys. I am so sorry. I am terrible at drawing anything. So yeah, I guess I probably should have painted over that. I just realized it's still on there as I'm editing this. So you guys can actually take a look at all my handy artwork. And now I'm just taking some of these little tree stumps that you can get in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just gluing those around. I'm just trying to make it look like a haunted pumpkin patch or something. I don't know. It's just a little vignette, and I actually got inspiration for this online, which I'll put a picture of the inspiration up that I used, and we can see how close I came. And you guys can leave in the comment below about what you think. And now I'm just trimming up all this excess excelsior, getting it out of the way so it doesn't look like, you know, it's never been mowed down. And then here's my inspiration, and here's my piece. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody. I want everybody to stay safe and healthy, and make sure you watch the video that's popping up on your screen now. Subscribe and hit that like button, and I will talk to you all again in the next video. Bye.